Let's just be honest here. We all judge. Not because we're bad people, but because we're human. You see someone do something you don't like. Maybe they cut you off in traffic. Maybe they talk over someone in a meeting, or raise their voice in public, and instantly, a little story starts forming in your mind. You label them. You decide who they are. And it happens so fast, you barely notice. But here's the catch. You're not necessarily wrong for reacting, but chances are you're reacting to the version of their story that you created, not the full reality. We see a moment, just a few seconds, and our brains, which are wired for quick decisions, fill in all the blanks. We assume we know the full picture, but truthfully, we rarely do. We didn't see what led up to that moment. We don't know about the night they cried themselves to sleep, or the childhood they're still trying to make peace with. We don't know what kind of pressure they're carrying, or the fear they've been quietly managing for years. Judgment feels like seeing clearly, but most of the time, it's just a quick assumption which is resting on everything we don't know about someone. And that's the trap. Because once we think we understand someone, we stop being curious, and we stop listening. And that's when we lose connection, not just to them, but to our own capacity for compassion. Here is something that might challenge you. If you'd lived their life, really lived it, you'd probably have done the exact same thing. Think about it. If you had their brain, their upbringing, their wiring, or if you were shaped by their environment, taught by their caregivers, wounded by their traumas, you wouldn't just understand their choices. You'd be making them. And that's not just spiritual talk. That's psychology. That's neuroscience. That's how human beings function. We all act based on what we've learned, what we believe will protect us, what we think will help us survive or be loved. So when someone lashes out, pulls away, or makes a decision that confuses or hurts you, it's rarely about you. It's about them doing what feels necessary in that moment. Not because it's wise or right, but because, given their inner world, it makes sense to them. You may think, well, I would have never done that. But are you sure? Because the truth is, you weren't them. You didn't wake up in their body that morning. You didn't carry their pain, or fight their battles, or hear their inner voices whispering old fears into their ears. We're quick to think we'd rise above if we were in their shoes. But most of us have never even worn shoes like theirs. And that realization, it softens judgment and opens the door to something deeper, which is understanding. Here's the part we don't like to admit. Judgment doesn't just say something about them, it says something about you too. Not always in a bad way, but in an illuminating way. Judgment is often a reflection of the parts of yourself that you haven't made peace with yet. When you react strongly to someone's anger, is it because you're not allowed to express your own? When you roll your eyes at someone's insecurity, is it because you're still fighting your own sense of not being enough? And when you judge someone's neediness, is it because a part of you is still ashamed of needing connection? See? We often judge what we fear becoming, or what we once were, or maybe what we've worked hard to hide. So the next time judgment arises, don't just ask, what's wrong with them? Ask, what in me is being stirred? Not as self-blame, but as self-awareness. Because when you can look at that part of yourself with compassion, it becomes easier to offer that same compassion to others. Now, just to be clear, this isn't about excusing toxic behavior or pretending everyone's actions are okay. Understanding isn't the same as agreement. You can still say no. You can still have boundaries. You can still walk away from harmful people. But what changes is the energy behind it. Instead of reacting from ego, you respond from clarity. Instead of "I'm better than you," it becomes "I see why you're doing this, and I choose differently." And that shift matters, because the world doesn't need more righteousness. It needs more awareness. It needs people who can stand firm without needing to stand above. So what does this look like in real life? It starts small. When you feel judgment rise in your body, pause. Just pause. Not to suppress the feeling, but to make space around it. Breathe, and gently ask yourself, what might they be going through right now? What don't I know about their story? Have I ever done something similar, even once? What fear or pain in me is being triggered? This is not a mental game. It's a practice of depth, of choosing presence over projection. You're not trying to become a saint. You're just trying to become real. So here's the final reminder. You've been them before. You've lashed out and regretted it. You've misunderstood someone. You've hurt someone and then tried to justify it. You've acted from fear, from stress, from confusion. You've had moments where you couldn't see clearly until it was too late. And if you can remember that version of yourself, then maybe you can recognize that in others too. We're all stumbling forward. Some of us louder than others. Some of us more lost. But all of us are just trying. So here's the quiet strength in all of this. When you choose not to judge, when you stay curious instead of certain, when you pause even briefly instead of rushing to conclusions, you start to hear your thoughts. You notice your judgment, and slowly, you stop believing all of them. This is the most human thing you can learn, and maybe the most human thing you can give.